there'll be more people getting engaged, more people getting pregnant, more people getting married, and it's all fun and games right now. But why will these marriages, these relationships, these engagements, these people that decided to start a family and have a baby, why 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years down the road will so many of them crash and burn? Welcome to the Good Life Podcast, where we talk about the search for significance, the pursuit of purpose, and the challenges of our culture. I'm Carl Nichols. I'm your host, and I'm with Daniel Foster, who has been with us since day one. And we are excited that you're joining us on this journey toward the good life. Yeah. And so we're talking about marriage and relationships and dating.
And I'm back for more tips. Let's go.
And we're feeding people with a fire hose this month. And if you'll pair this, you can go to relevantchurch.cc or our YouTube channel. I don't even know what the link is on YouTube, but Relevant Church.
Just search The Good Life, Carl Nichols, and it'll pop up.
Yep, and then if they want to partner and listen to the messages in this particular series called Love, Sex, and Dating from our church, it's Relevant Church on YouTube.
Yeah, Relevant Church.
Okay, so we're in Locust Grove, Georgia. But hopefully you'll come through the month of February and talking about relationships, have a lot to process, but also growing in your relationship, whether you're single, married, single again, and or maybe even empty nesters are growing in this season. So we talked about last time roadblocks to healthy marriages, but any really healthy relationship. And we talked a lot about communication. So we didn't talk a lot about communication, but communication came up often. And so we're going to be, next week, we're going to be talking about how to have good dialogue and healthy communication. I'm going to share some tips that Julie and I are learning even as we speak after 23 years of marriage. But today, I want to talk about this idea of failed relationships. That's a great title for a podcast. Hey, here, we're not telling you how to have a failed relationship. What we're going to talk about is why are there so many failed marriages, broken relationships? Let's be honest. When there's broken marriages, there's broken homes, there's broken children, then those children grow up to almost relive their childhood experiences in their own marriages. And so at the time of the release of this, it's right around Valentine's Day, there'll be more people getting engaged, more people getting pregnant, more people getting married, and it's all fun and games right now. But why will these marriages, these relationships, these engagements, these people that decided to start a family and have a baby, why 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years down the road will so many of them crash and burn?
Lack of communication.
Lack of communication. Go back and listen to that last episode. But why is it? There's some pattern that's causing a lot of this. There's something that we're seeing in our culture that I think contributes to this. And I call it culture's failed formula. There is a formula in our culture. I don't have time to give you all the right things to do today because we'll talk about it. We're talking about it at Relevant on Sundays, but we're talking about this failed formula from the platform on Sundays of the culture in America specifically when it comes to dating and relationships and marriage. And I'll give you the antidote to these things in that message series, but here's the fail formula. The fail formula is this: find the right person, step one. Mm-hmm. Fall in love, myth, step 2. And then step 3 is fix all of your hopes and dreams on that person. And then here it is. There's actually a 4th step here. If failure occurs, repeat steps 1 through 3. Find the right person, fall in love, fix all your hopes and dreams on that person. If failure occurs, repeat steps 1 through 3. It's like Boys to Men, you know.
That's what I said. It reminds me of a song.
Yeah. So the problem here is if we're not careful, we have bought into the lies about how to get married. Mm-hmm. Who am I going to marry? So this myth that you have to find the right person is something that needs to be debunked. We debunked that in this series. Falling in love that's a lot of desire, emotions, infatuation. A lot of that stuff goes with that. What is love? I mean, let's be honest. We're going to fight for that word here in a few weeks in a series we're doing. Fix all your hopes and dreams on that person. I can't tell how many people that say they love Jesus, but the moment they get in a relationship, everything shifts.
Yeah.
Everything shifts. it's like
You don't see them for a while.
Jesus is my number one, but then he has to take a back seat for this relationship, and then I'll get married one day, and then we'll try to put him back at number one. But the reality is, he was out of his.
Yeah.
He wasn't driving the car to begin with, and now you got to the wrong destination, and you're wondering how you got here. So, it happens though because of a love cycle that I see in so many people's lives. I was here. I've been here, even in my marriage. Been married 23 years. I've experienced all of these things at some point, and she has too. And you've been married 18 months.
We're just babies.
Yeah, unrealistic expectations, out of control emotions, poor communication, again, preconceived ideas, self-esteem issues, and lack of responsibility. And so what happens, find the right person, fall in love, fix all your hopes and dreams on that person, and then you have unrealistic expectations, out of control emotions, poor communication, perceived ideas, self-esteem issues, and lack of responsibility. It all fails. Repeat steps 1 through 3.
Yep.
And so we got to
Wash, rinse, repeat.
Yeah, we got to get deeper. So how do you deal with this pattern? How do you face some of these things that are causing two broken people don't make a whole person? Right. That's the problem. It's like, well, you're broken. I'm half a person. No. It doesn't work that way.
If I get married, rather, all my problems will be
They're
fixed.
not. That's right.
And all my problems will go away. It'll be better. It'll be easier.
Yes, it's such a myth. Yes, in marriage, there's helpmates, but we live out our purpose together. Again, going back to our conversation last month, our full potential, our calling, our mission, all those things. Yes, we inspire one another, but just I don't marry someone to be unbroken.
Yeah,
that's just that. But that sometimes
what
we
culture
think.
does.
Yes, that's exactly what happens. So I love what Paul says to the Corinthian church. Paul writes in 1 Corinthians chapter number 7. He says, "Now to the unmarried and widows, it is good for them to stay unmarried, as I do. But if they cannot control themselves, they should marry, for it is better to marry than to burn with passion." So Paul says, look, man, if you can stay single and stay pure and love Jesus and not be involved in pornography and sexual morality and all those things, and like you can control those desires, you'll be more focused if you're single. And essentially what Paul goes on to say here in 1 Corinthians in chapter 7 is marriage is complicated. And so what happens is if you can stay single and honor God and live out, then go for it. That's Paul praises that. That wasn't in my DNA. That was not, it was a desire that I had to be married. I want to be married. I feel like to create a family and be fruitful and multiply. I think that's a calling too in Genesis. But at the same time, why we get married, when I read that, if they cannot control themselves, they should marry, for it is better to marry than to burn with passion. We can always, if we're not careful, we can look at that and go, well, we want to have sex, so we're going to get married.
Right.
And I think that's what happens. We fix all our hopes and dreams, and we can't control our emotions. We can't control. It's not just this sexual desire, like just drawing this need for connection. So we try our best to find the right one, fix our hopes and dreams on that person, and then all of a sudden it falls apart. And so what happens is we think that if we can make a promise to somebody, it'll all work out. But promises never substitute for preparation. So I come into a relationship jacked up, screwed up from my childhood. I promise someone we're going till death do us part.
But we're in love.
Right.
It's different. This is different. We're different. We're not like everyone else.
Yeah. If we had the same intentionality to love the person that we spent writing the vows to the person, there's so much emphasis that goes into the wedding day. I just think we should take a lot of that money and a lot of that intentionality and pour it into counseling and ongoing like development of our marriage. If you take the $10, $20, $30, $40,000 now average wedding,
it's crazy,
and pour that $10,000 a year into your marriage for the first 4 years of counseling and mentorship, and it would change marriages forever. Or spend $10,000 before you get married on it. That would help. So what happens is we believe a lie that our ability to commit will override our lack of preparation. So I'll just commit to this. But why is the average marriage die at 7 years? I mean, if you make there's a 7-year itch, the whole thing, because the commitment didn't. You overcommitted to something you weren't ready for.
Yeah, we're also a generation or a culture that likes to commit to things until something better comes along.
It's the graveyard of good intentions.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this. We talked a lot about New Year's stuff and resolutions and various things in our previous podcast. Here's the question. Let's say I'm going to commit to a diet. I've never dieted before in my life, but I'm going to commit to this hardcore diet for the rest of my life. You're like, You think you might be overcommitting, and then you wonder why you failed and fell flat on your face. Because you didn't do the things to prepare yourself for that commitment.
Sure.
And so you overcommitted before you were prepared. So, but if I'll get healthy step by step by step, and then I'll learn what I can do and what I can't, and how, now I'm in a healthier place to commit. Or let's just play this whole thing out. I'm going to commit to run a marathon by June. But I ain't ran a mile since I was in 5th grade. You see, like, that sounds good. And we think if we just commit to it, it's going to happen. It's not going to happen. You're not prepared for it to happen. We do that to marriage.
You got to do the hard work at the beginning. Krista and I did something different. We didn't just do premarital counseling. We did pre-engagement counseling.
Yep.
And I would 100% recommend that to anybody who's having that conversation of getting engaged, getting married. Like, let's go ahead and do the hard things now. Let's have those conversations now, instead of when you're engaged and you're 3 months, 4 months before the wedding. You're not calling that thing off.
Yeah,
you're like, well,
I've ordered the invitations. I've told the people we're gonna get. Now,
these are red flags, but they'll figure themselves out. It's okay.
So many people get married with red flags because they've already spent money. Mm-hmm. And I can't back
I'm
out.
already locked in.
And then 3 months in, they're like, we can hide it because we can argue about it. Look, listen, this is not my first dog and pony show. I've seen this over and over and over, and they think I'll just commit through this process. Let's take that and play itself out. This is why people buy cars or houses before they have the money to buy them. They commit to the debt, and they don't have the preparation to buy it, and then the house gets foreclosed on, the car gets repoed.
Emotion.
Here's another one. I'll go into student loan debt for something because I don't, and now it'll follow me for the rest of my life like a bad pet.
Yeah.
It won't go away because I wasn't prepared to pay for it. So now I'm just going to commit to it, and then it's going to. We go into marriage with the same. This rule applies. Prepare before you make a promise. Prepare before you commit, because your commitment's not going to be the thing that keeps you there. Right. And so I love what Proverbs 14 says. It's several verses. The wisdom of the prudent is to give thought to their ways, but the folly of fools is deception. Proverbs 14:15. The simple believe anything, but the prudent give thought to their steps. So the paths people choose trump the commitments they make. Let that sink in.
That's tweetable right there.
Yeah. So I'll choose a path to journey down. The path that I chose at 12, 15. So this is why men who involve themselves in pornography. Mm-hmm. I'm going to commit to my wife and I'm going to stop. No, you didn't choose a path.
Yeah.
Promiscuous relationships, ongoing, in and out of. I've chosen a path of breaking up, but I'm going to commit now. No, you've chosen a path. You've got behaviors. You got patterns. Yep. So paths lead to patterns. Patterns lead to behaviors over time. And now you say, I'm just going to commit my way out of it. It doesn't happen. And so this is where we get back.
That was so good, and you just ran through that. Paths lead to patterns, and patterns lead to behaviors.
Yeah, so I choose a path.
Man, that's gold. That's worth the podcast cost. That's worth the whole.
This is all free. So if you'd like to make a contribution, you can send it. Here's what I would say. So let's go back. Fail formula, the pattern. Find the right person, fall in love, fix all your hopes and dreams on that person. If failure occurs, repeat steps 1 through 3. I never dealt with myself. I chose a pattern of relationships, a pathway that led to a pattern over time. That pattern became my ongoing behaviors and habits. And now all of a sudden I find someone and I'm going to commit my way out of it? No.
Yeah.
Because I've got 7 different broken relationships. And every time you have that and if you involve sexual activity into that, which we believe is reserved for the confines of marriage, which we'll hit in a minute. But at the end of the day, man, you wonder why in the world it's this pattern. Because over and over and over again, we choose a path at 12, 15, 18, 25. We commit to that path. We start patterns on that path. We know that path. It's all we know. And we're going to start a commitment over here, but we've already committed to a pathway of behaviors. Yep. You're not going to trump that by saying I do.
Right.
Never. And so I know young ladies and young men who are getting married, and they're just not doing the things to be healthy. So if you're in a marriage and you're going, oh snap, there's a few things in here for you. If you're not married, thinking of marriage, if you're engaged, hit the pause button, listen to this, and really process before you go any further. I'm with you. Pre-engagement counseling, 100%. In fact, we were having a conversation with a young adult a couple years ago, and we recommended that. And
I had never heard of that. My wife recommended that. Chris is like, we should do this. I'm like, whoa. I don't know.
I want to get out before I get too into it.
Yeah.
Because we know where the end goal here is if we're not careful. We know where this will lead, I should say, not the end goal. So let me give you just quick things, 8 quick things. Yeah, I'm going to buzz through these. Everybody in here's laughing. To prepare for marriage. If you're in a marriage, some of these things apply to actually fixing yourself in the marriage to get the marriage healthy. Number 1, address unresolved childhood issues. Choose that path. Commit to that path before anything else. I love what Les and Leslie Parrott said. You can listen to this. Their podcast is great. If you attempt to build intimacy with a person before you've done the hard work of becoming a whole and healthy person, every relationship will be an attempt to complete the hole in your heart.
That's good.
If you attempt to build intimacy with a person before you've done the hard work of becoming a whole and healthy person, every relationship will be an attempt to complete the hole in your heart. If you say, I'm past it, I'd sit down with a professional trauma counselor and make sure before you move forward individually, not like as a whole, but stop wherever you're at in a relationship and deal with this now. And don't even try to run parallel tracks. Take some time off from that relationship. Blame me. I don't care. Take some time off. Get it right. Because I've seen it explode. Here's the problem. If you don't, what's going to happen is you're going to get married. It's not going to be all that you thought it was going to be. A year, 2, 3 years in, you'll be like, maybe if we have a baby, it'll complete us. The pressure you put on that child. And you just had a child. I know your age. I know your stage. I know why you did it. And this was not why you had a baby. But a lot of people will get married and they realize this marriage is not as fulfilling as I thought.
A baby will fix it.
A baby will fix it.
Yes.
And a baby only makes it more complicated, Paul says in Corinthians. And so the more people you add to the pie, so you think adding things are going to make it easier. Adding things make it a whole lot more complicated. Then you put the responsibility of your brokenness is now placed on your child. And we wonder why we have broken family trees. Deal with your junk, and psychologists tell us you will change your family tree for 7 generations. But if you don't, you'll pass it down for 7.
That's incredible.
So, all right, I'll say it quickly. Number 2, ladies and guys, I'm going to say this to you too. Don't dress like a commodity, and don't put up with being treated like one. Can I just say something here?
Sure.
I'm going to offend all of our young adults. I love our young adults. We're growing. Our young adults area is growing. It's been fun to watch. I was amazed recently as how many of them committed to a year study of the Bible together. Stop posting shirtless chest pictures from the gym and butt pictures of you in your spandex. Stop it. You're going to be treated like a commodity. Listen, if what's going to happen is what you're marketing is what you're going to be expected to bring to the table when you get married.
Absolutely.
Stop it. If you do butt lifts in the gym, that's between you and you. That's it. Not the world. If you think you're shredded, okay, be shredded. Save that for your wife. Like, stop it. It's so...
And then you wonder why you only attract a certain type of person. It's like, well, how are you marketing yourself?
Yes. I love you, young adults. I love you, students. But for the love, from somebody who's married for 23 years and gets it, understand, thank God I didn't grow up in that generation. This, one of our staff posted a picture. He goes to the gym here locally, and they had to put a sign out. So this is the world we're living in. I'm looking at you, so Josh, ridiculous. Because I don't even know how to respond to this. The sign literally said, if you're going to video yourself working out, please make sure you don't put your camera in the way of other people. I'm like, this is the world we're living in. You got to post a sign.
How unaware are people to, first of all, set up a tripod in a gym in the path of other people, but then who really wants to watch you working out? That is a fad I don't understand.
I don't. So look, can I press on some things and offend a whole lot of church people too, and pastors?
Yes. But
when pastors have people following them around with camera crews everywhere they go so they can post it, it only further entrenches the generation. So if you're following pastors that do that, understand that's not healthy. Because what they're not showing you is the arguments in their home. What they're not showing you is the stress. They're showing you their highlight reel. If you're modeling your life after spiritual leaders who are followed by camera crews, that is not real life. And I know I just hacked off half of those people don't listen to me anyway. So at the end of the day, Stop. There is something God has for your life between you and your spouse. It is so much greater than that momentary look at me. That's only fueling your insecurity, inadequacy, or whatever it is inside of you. Stop it. I love you enough to tell you, stop it. And go, if you've been doing it, a good start is go clean up your Instagram. Go delete your TikTok. Go start there and realize, you know what? I probably should, so anyway, there you go. Number 3, get out of debt. Okay. Get out of debt. Don't expect the government to pay for your student loans. I know that offended the other generation as well, but at the end of the day, I don't know how many people have, but get out of freaking debt. I understand you didn't get here overnight. And get out of there overnight. You got there a lot quicker than you're going to get out. Yeah. But get out of debt. Start the journey toward getting out of debt. Listen, do you have to be fully out of debt before you get married? No. But the less debt you have, the better. That's all I'm going to say.
So freeing.
Yep. Number 4, break your bad habits. Okay? If you don't have good sleeping habits, if you don't have good eating habits, if you don't have good, spiritual disciplines in your life, if you find yourself, listen, I'm not going to beat the drum of drinking here, but if you find yourself drinking far too much, if you find yourself even feeling like you need to have a glass of wine every night before you go to bed, or you need to have beer every time you go out, or you have to come home and decompress, those are bad habits. Mm-hmm. You add more stress of a marriage into that. Good luck. Break your bad habits, whatever those are. I won't spend a lot of time there. Here's the 5th one. Postpone the physical till after you get married. Notice I didn't say don't have sex. What I said is postpone the physical. That means before you get to the point of having sex, postpone that. Mm-hmm. Don't kindle the fires of one. Don't have physical and emotional arousal that makes you want to take another step. Postpone all that. Listen, once you hold hands, then you want to do something else.
What's next?
So
you find yourself asking, how far is too far?
Yep. And so I understand it's hard. I understand and I dated, Julie and I dated for a long time before we got married because we were younger. But one of the greatest things, we were great friends. And there was a season in my life where, I was an only child. My mom had cancer. I was in a season almost of isolation, loneliness. She was a great friend in those seasons. But I wish we didn't have to date so long. I wish I was older and we could have got married and we had to fight that battle so long. By the grace of God, obviously. He was faithful in that. We were faithful in battling that. But I'm just saying, if you get to that point, if you'll get whole, then you have to wait 6 years before you get married. You can get whole and you can kind of know, hey, this is the life I want to build. 6 months, a year in. People that are dating 3 and 4 and 5, 6 years, I'm like, come on, man. Come on. Start dating when you're 18, 20, 22, somewhere in there after you've gotten whole. Then start, and you'll find in a year to 2 years, you're like, let's do this. Let's move forward. Yeah. It ain't that hard. So, number 6, next, don't live together. Avoid living together. Mm-hmm. Listen, every study shows people who live together before they get married have a higher percentage of failure. Yeah. They just do. Well, we just need to live together. And this is young and old. I've seen it on both sides. We need to live together because we join our finances together. Okay, well, that's a good reason. We can afford to live. So the most sacred covenant in marriage, in all of history, marriage established by God. You're going to undermine that for the sake of paying the bills. Because it's easy. Come on. Where are we going back to dying to ourselves, taking up our cross, and following Him? And number 7, non-Christians. If you're not a believer, don't date a Christian unless you become one. Because they'll always expect you to do things that you don't want to do. So I notice I didn't say.
That's an interesting twist.
There you go. Christians don't date non-Christians because that makes them look bad. If you're a non-believer, don't date a Christian. Don't. Because you're not going to be able to live up to what either one of two things. If they're a Christian, they're going to have to compromise their values to date you because y'all don't have the same worldview. Yeah. Or you're never going to live up to their expectations of you. So just don't do it. So Christians, I didn't even say that to you. I said it to non-Christians. Number 8, get involved in your local church while you're single. Yeah. Both of you. Because if you don't, it'll be that much harder to be involved and be committed when you're married. Here's a pattern I see, and we're going to be done. I see people come to youth ministry, they get involved in young adults, they kind of take that season off of 18 to 22, 23, 24, 25. They do their whole wild, crazy college thing or whatever, sleep in thing, make money thing, whatever it is they're doing in that season. And I'm so thankful for the young adults who aren't doing that at our church. Then they get married, and then they get married to somebody they didn't really serve with, didn't do anything, and then all of a sudden they're like, it ain't going so well.
I wonder why.
Yep. Or they get married and it ain't really going so well. Then they add a kid to the mix, and they go, we want our kid to grow up in church, even though we don't love Jesus really. Right. So they come back to church. Here's the next pattern. Kid that for 5 years, okay, man, our kid loves this church. Then they start playing travel ball, and at 6 years old, they leave church again because their kid's playing travel or whatever. You insert whatever.
See it all the time.
I can watch the pattern. Well, they'll be here until they're. I mean, it's so it's not comical. It's sad, but it's comical how easy it is to spot. Yeah. And so, listen, I'm not trying to talk down to you. I'm trying to help you. So if you're in your marriage, you're not out of debt. Get out of debt. If you got bad habits, get help with your bad habits. Deal with your unresolved childhood issues. Again, be careful how you dress and act and appear. That's one thing I love about my wife, man. I'll never forget. I'm gonna use this as an example. I told my wife when she was we were dating, and we walked by some shorts in some department store we were in. She goes, "Those are so cute," and I was like, "Yep, but you would never wear those because they're too short, right?" And she goes, "Absolutely not." And I said, "That's what I love about you." And she said that when we were dating made her feel so valued because I honored her. And I remember that statement. I'll never forget that. Yeah. Honoring her in that. And so don't dress like a commodity. Avoid living together. If you're married, live together. If you're married to an unbeliever, then you live for Jesus and treat them like you want them to, to treat them like the person you want them to be. So, and then involve yourself in your local church. So anything you want to add after 18 months of marriage? You seem really...
I know it all now.
You know it all.
No, this is just such good content. And I know I'm going to go back and listen to this and take notes like I did the last episode. It's just, again, the pre-engagement counseling, to say that again, that was just so beneficial to Krista and my relationship, and really made us ask questions that we probably should have been having conversations about before we were engaged, before we were committed financially to a wedding date. So
that's good.
No, this is great content.
We do marriage conferences across the country, Julie and I do, and one of the things I tell people, you got to know yourself. But that's temperament counseling, understanding who you are, how you're designed. This is deeper than personality. It's kind of your foundational, the way you were wired, and then know your spouse as well as you know yourself. But if you don't know yourself, you can never let your spouse know you. Yeah. So here's the thing. Here's the problem with this. If I don't deal with these things and become authentic, whole person, you will marry someone and you will love them for who they pretend to be. I never want to be loved for who I pretend to be, because I'm not really. That's not real love. I want to be loved for who I am.
That's
and
good.
So deal with this junk, and I promise you, it'll change your life. Hey, you can check out Relevant Church online on YouTube and catch the messages that pair with this series. Again, I'll say it again, like and share. Somebody's going through some stuff right now, and I would love to help you in any way possible take those next steps. Our church will be here for you, but listen, don't fall for culture's traps. And we're praying for you, praying for our listeners as you journey on this thing called the good life. And I just believe marriage can be a huge component of that. So join us next week as we talk about communication. We'll see you then.